If I'm completely honest about my run for school board, it was not something I'd ever thought about. And then I learned that in the past 20 years, we've only had 2 contested elections in our board district. And I thought, if nothing else, by running, and if there's 2 of us on the ballot, the voters can decide who represents them, because that is what the board is supposed to do, to represent the community. When I was campaigning, I repeated over and over again, like, every child in Tulsa should be able to go to their local school, have a high quality education, and the support they need to be successful. Something that's on my mind a lot is, what about the kids that get left behind? What are we doing to ensure that they have the best education possible? Education is one of those things that, in theory, we can have the right solutions, but you're working with little humans, and the way it plays out in the classroom looks different than how it looks on paper. And so it's really important to get to know the kids, to hear their stories, see what they're up against, to get to know the teachers and see what they face and what their challenges are, what their excitement comes from, and so spend as much time in school as possible. I think one of the most profound things for me as a student at TU was investing in future teachers, future educators. I had the opportunity one semester to work with Dr. Tao Wang and help with his measurement and evaluation class. And I walked out of that class every Friday with a spring in my step of, like, this is what I am meant to do, to work with these future educators, to help shape their thinking and to inspire them and get them set on the right path before they're in the classroom. I had come into urban education after having spent a lot of time in China. And I was a minority in China and went into that, or learned to go into that country as a learner, that I needed to ask questions and observe and try to understand a culture that was different from my own. And so coming to Tulsa and teaching in urban schools, where I tried to have that same perspective of being a learner alongside my students, observing, asking questions, trying to understand where they were coming from, their views of the world, and how I could best encourage them where they were at without jumping to conclusions or making assumptions. I still remember those days at TU of walking out of that class thinking, I love learning and I love teaching, and so I see myself perhaps being on a college campus again in the future.